Okay, this is going to be my first devlog, because I'm not going to write one up, about my pathfinding system. I'm going to talk about first what I've got and then about how I got there. So what you have here is an NPC ship on the right with all the rays coming out of it, and then a target, which is another ship. The rays that you can see are a long green line. That's the path it wants to follow, the flight path, that's what I call it in the code. You have the cyan line, which shows the ship's trajectory, because it's in space. The magenta shows the correction to the trajectory to get the ship to actually fly on the line. Red indicates any evasive manoeuvres. The halo of lines is evasive maneuver, is not evasive, it's proximity detection. And then the grey fan of lines is what is it taking in the data. Then uses to adjust the speed and things like that. It sort of like reads the terrain in front of it. And as you can see, it sort of is really adaptable. Now my problem is that the terrain in my game is non-stationary. It can change. Some of it can change quite dramatically actually, and I couldn't really. I don't know how. So I felt I needed to write my own system to do it. Initially, I was only going to have two parts to it. One was the pathfinding element, so that would be the long green line. That was quite tricky actually to get it to work in the way I wanted to. What it does now, if you can see like the six-pointed star that sort of shoots out on a corner, is when it hits, it actually makes a lot of sort of like area clear checks, and then plots the point through those. Took a few iterations to get it to work how I want, but that was pretty good. And the second part, that I went into it with a plan how to make is the green fan part of the system, which is where it just reads the local area and makes sort of like on the fly course adjustments to avoid things to like that are incoming or that it's bumped into, or that the path didn't pick up, so it can travel through narrower spaces basically. And that involves the evasive manoeuvres, which is the red lines. Now, the part that I didn't know I'd need is actually the magenta line. It was really tricky to get the ship to steer correctly, and even though there's nothing to do with the pathfinding, it is the control of the ship, and it's like an element of oversteer to get it to adjust for the fact that there's no drag, everything drifts, and that's some pretty. It took a lot of head scratching and going back and forth to get something that actually works. But no, it's pretty neat. It flies fairly accurately and can fly quite quickly if it needs to. And then the last part is the grey fan of lines, and that's probably the bit that actually not that works the best, but it really made a huge difference. That it takes in data from the target that's hit. Its size changes with the speed, and its location changes with the trajectory. So it reads where the ship is most likely going to be. You can fiddle with that to get different sort of effects, as you can see. But yeah, the grey lines, it slows it down, sometimes tells it to make evasive manoeuvres, and and that they all come together to sort of get this. It's a fairly robust system for travelling through these asteroid fields that I've created. One of the things that I'm really pleased with that I can do, perfect, is that because I know how every bit of the code, and a lot of it is done on variables, I can program in different behaviours. So here what we have is 4 different sort of like archetypes for the ship steering. We've got a ready, who's quite aggressive. He will bang into things, but he's the fastest. He will always be the first to get there. Yellow is the sort of standard. He's at the bottom now. It is quite often second to arrive, but causes far less damage to the ship. It's not as happy to have a collision. Greenie is a poor flyer, because I thought you can't just emulate it being perfect. So Greenie will quite happily crash into, not happily, but will quite often crash into other ships. often gets there before the yellow ship because it flies a little, not even recklessly. It's just not a very good pilot. And then the last one is purple. Purple's almost always the last one to return, but purple flies very cautiously, has a lower speed, checks more often, and I mean, I don't know how many different personality types I can think up. I mean, it's really interesting to just watch them fly around. I mean, you would think, looking at it, that the red one is the best, but red takes 3 times more damage than any other one because he's just so happy to go in to go in all guns blazing. But it's really interesting. Like you can see here, like where's old purple gone? Like purple's area, you can see that all its rays tend to be longer because it is like the more cautious flyer. So yeah, that's my system, and here's the little team. I've been testing them out, and they can get through the tutorial on their own, which I think is a bit of a touch. So yeah, this is just them actually in the game world following me around. Next, I plan to do, so that is literally just them flying around. Next is the behaviours, so sort of like docking, travelling around, performing mining, sort of like attacking the player. I've got to do shooting's actually the very next thing I'll do. But yeah, and the various different behaviours. But I feel like now the system that I've built for getting from point A to point B is pretty adaptable. I can change different behaviours. Like I intend to make like I can quite easily make them go just slower, and it can change different things on the fly. And one thing that really helped them, which I should have probably put in at the start, was the NPCs can't actually fly in reverse. Only because I plan to make reverse part of a hard brake manoeuvre, which will involve turning into its trajectory and doing sort of like a hard burn either with reverse or forward thrust. And that's just something that that is something that I've written, and I've spent a whole week writing the movement code, so I need a bit of a break for that and just writing something else. So yeah, I'm just going to leave it to roll through these last just them following us around a bit of an asteroid field. So thanks for watching this. If you found it at all informative, leave a comment or a like or whatever. Thank you very much for watching.